Caution, you're about to enter a no-spin zone. Factor begins right now. And the Michael Jackson jury has quit for the evening, but did you know that private information about that jury, which continues to deliberate, has been made public? Well, it has. And joining us now from Miami is Dr. Carolyn Robbins Manley, an expert on American juries. You know, I never heard of this. I don't cover crime that much, but I've got in my hand now the questionnaires, all these people's personal information. It's on the internet. It's out there. Is this unusual?
Well, it's unusual to have a questionnaire on most trials in America. They don't have pretrial questionnaires. That's saved for the biggies like this. But some of this information is out there. Not all of the information. We don't know their names. We don't know their addresses. But in high-profile cases, yeah, we normally do end up finding some of this out. But you have to remember something. When you're picking a jury, it's not about jury selection. It's really mislabeled. It's deselection. We don't know who the next juror is coming down the line in the box that might be worse for them. And they only have so many challenges, although in this case they didn't use all of them.
Good evening and welcome to Larry King Weekend. It's been an amazing week in the O.J. Simpson trial. We've assembled a distinguished panel. With the jury selection point of view is Carolyn Robbins, a jury consultant based in South Florida. She's an expert on jury selection, jury simulation, and focus groups. What does the book mean to the jury selection? Now, we know you never could have had this, since to our knowledge, there's never been a book been published about a trial before the trial began.
That's right.
So therefore, how do you read that into the jury? What do you do with it?
Well, again, at this point, I think this case has had so much pretrial publicity, so much talk, rumor, etc. At this point, the book is just one more thing that gets added on to the pile of pseudo-information that the jurors have to sift out.
Is this a real tough jury selection process?
Oh,
from your business?
Yeah, I think, well, in some ways, ironically, it's no different than any other task you have, because you still have to try and weed out people who have predispositions and biases, figure out the questions that'll get to the root of those answers when they're talking in the voir dire process or when they're filling out their questionnaires. But in some ways, this is unprecedented. I mean, you know, the coverage is just been ridiculously overdone. And I think the book is just one more thing, but I really think my point has always been that most pretrial hearings, and I'm sure the professors will agree with me, are behind closed doors. Most of this is so unusual.
And over quickly, usually.
Yes.
Right? And the jury doesn't usually take the... How long do you think it's going to take to pick this jury?
Oh, well, they're moving along faster than I thought they would. It could take another couple weeks. It could take another couple months. It's hard to say. When they get to the point where they start asking them questions verbally, that's where it may slow up.
Carolyn, I'm sort of surprised. It may be that this is done in this fashion around the country, but I don't know that I would want jurors sitting out on the main panel to watch me or hear me talk about preemptory strikes, because I might strike somebody because I don't like the way they look. And this sort of thing is usually not done, I would think, in the presence of the entire panel.
Well, it just depends where you are and what's going on. I mean, yeah, it's always interesting. I tell attorneys, it's not about selection, it's about deselection. It's about getting rid of the people who think are not good for you, and you certainly have to keep in mind who's coming next in the box. And in this case, if they're hearing what's going on, that's another factor that you have to keep in mind.
Joined by the famed defense attorney, William Kunstler, whose client list reads like a who's who of celebrities. He's the author of the new book, My Life as a Radical Lawyer. And with the jury perspective, Dr. Carolyn Robbins of the Miami-based firm Jury Simulations. Either side you'd rather pick jury for?
I think it'd be equally challenging. Although I wanted to comment when you said that sometimes picking the first 12 seems to be,
Edward Bennett Williams says that sometimes he's watched so many trials that he believes juries rise to the occasion. Well, they listen to judges. They follow instructions.
They try, although we practically say it in Greek. So there's a lot of things we can do to make the jury system better. And jurors come into such a foreign surrounding. Everybody in the room knows what they're doing except the jurors. The judge's got experience, the attorneys do, the clerk, the court reporter. The jurors are the only ones that have no experience, and we don't let them ask questions. We generally don't let them take notes. We read them stuff in Greek, and then we say, go make a wonderful decision. So we really put them in a very difficult position. But, taking the first 12, you really do need to probe a little bit. Case in point, if you get somebody who's a battered wife. So maybe the probing that we do might be inappropriate to some extent, but we still have to do some.
All right, let's talk about the case with Carolyn Robbins Manley, a jury consultant. Also, Daniel Horowitz, a criminal defense attorney. Welcome to you both. And Carolyn, to you first. We heard one of the jurors say this morning, Raymond Holtman, saying that he felt that Michael Jackson was probably a molester, but he just couldn't convict him based on the evidence in this case. How do jurors typically decide? Based on their hearts, or do they truly stick to the instructions to just look at the evidence in the case?
Well, you can see from what this jury said. I mean, they were in there for, over 30 hours. They pored over the instructions. In fact, they said they had one juror assigned just to be the instruction reader-interpreter. My verdict, the verdict form and the instructions are like the tabular. They are the tablet they follow. And they try so hard to stick with that. Sometimes we make it very hard for them to understand it because it can be full of legal jargon and, really run-on sentences, but they try so hard to stick to it. And in this case, it was reasonable doubt that they were using as their guide, as they're supposed to. I mean, I think...
Carolyn, the tough question, if you were advising either the defense or the prosecution, start with the prosecution, what would you be saying? Who do you want on this jury?
Well, you're right, it is tough. And again, I said I wouldn't be saying who do you want, I'd be saying who do you want to make sure you get rid of. I think the prosecution has to be very careful. They have to get rid of people who maybe have been wrongly accused in their life. It's their life experience that you're looking for. You want to get them talking. They filled out questionnaires, but I think the questionnaire was a little thin. So you have to go back and follow up on some of the questions that they were asked. Do they distrust police officers? Would a police officer lie on the stand? Would an investigator fudge something? How do they feel about DNA? You have to think about the witnesses that are coming along that are going to try and portray the theme of your case, and then look at the prospective juror and say, gee, is this person going to buy this, or are they going to reject it?
Promised onto this business of jury selection in the forthcoming trial involving O.J. Simpson on allegations that he murdered two people, his former wife and her friend, is Carolyn Robbins, who is with Jury Simulations Incorporated. When trial lawyers have to have questions answered about potential cases and potential jurors, they go to trial consultants. Carolyn Robbins owns a trial consultation organization, and she's here tonight to help us understand what the lawyers are up against in their search to get O.J. Simpson a fair trial. When you say stereotype, Carolyn, what do you mean exactly?
Well, base their decisions on who they think they want or don't want based on race or sex or religion, which, by the way, research has shown that has no correlation whatsoever to being able to predict which way a juror will go in any situation.
Right.